Shalom. First, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. The food lines are getting longer and longer. All right, the food lines are getting longer and longer. Okay, and it's becoming more and more spoken about, more and more seen, and more experienced. All right, that people are now having to go to food pantries. Okay, it's becoming a thing. People are having to go to food pantries for food, lining up with their carts and all of that. And it seems as though each time the lines are getting longer and longer. Okay, and you can ask those people that are on them lines. They'll tell you that hey, they never expected or never thought that they would end up on that line. You know, hey, based on the kind of life they used to live prior to being affected by this pandemic, they didn't think that they would end up in this position. Hell, even some of them probably made fun of people, all right, or thought lowly of people who were standing in food lines for food, all right. But when the time comes when your stomach starts knocking and starts talking to you, all right, you don't discriminate, you know, because hey, whoever you could have a nice car, you could be poor as hell, you could be a bum, but you all have one thing in common, all right, and that's what you need food. Okay, now you get a quick precept. And this is what some people are learning the hard way, which more people are going to learn. It says, riches, Proverbs 11:4, riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivereth from death. Okay? So, in the times that we're coming into, a lot of people are going to find out that in the day of the Lord's wrath, it's going to be consistent of pestilence and famine and diseases and chaos and death on a mass scale. And your riches are not going to make you exempt from that. All right? But righteousness is what's going to make, all right, the elect exempt, all right, from the destruction that's to come. And one of the main ones is what? Famine. Okay. Now, before I even get started, let's type in famine. Let's see definition. It says famine, extreme and general scarcity of food, as in a country or a large geographical area. Any extreme and general scarcity, extreme hunger, starvation. All right. Now, let's look up scarce. All right. Scarce says especially of food, money, or some other resource insufficient for the demand. All right. In short supply. So a famine doesn't mean that there's no food. It doesn't exist. Everybody's dying. All right. But it means that your access to that, because the food is in short supply, all right, it's insufficient for the demand, all right, your access to it is very limited if you have access to it. Okay. So now, as the scriptures say, 2nd Ezra chapter 16, verse 22, this is also one of the plagues the Lord is going to hit this place with. Really, he's going to hit the world with it. All right. And it's not a joke. All right. Famine alone can cripple a society. But on top of that, the Lord is adding other plagues. Now, this is 2nd Ezra chapter 16, verse 22. It says, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, meaning they're going to die of starvation. They're going to die of lack of food. Okay, perish means to die. You're not going to survive. You're going to be destroyed. All right, because you cannot get access to food. Now, before people go out, there's certain people who can't, they're just that bugged out that, it'll get so severe that they'll start committing cannibalism. But cannibalism won't save you. How many people can you eat? All right, before you run out, I guess, whatever the case may be. Okay, and then here it is, you end up dying, all right, by starvation. Now I have some information here going into the process. Like it says, what happens when we starve? Phases of starvation. All right, and it's real quick. It's gonna go into how your body breaks down. All right, when you starve, and it's not a pleasant experience. So it says, for many of them, many. So a lot of people who are on the earth, their judgment is going to be through famine, through dying from lack of food, through starvation. And it says, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. So for those that the Lord has set for judgment, if he set it for you to die of famine, you're going to die of famine. Now, just because your judgment might not be famine doesn't mean that you're just, you're scot-free. Your judgment is something else. Like it says, the sword. All right. Meaning you might die, you might get shot, you might get stabbed. whatever the case may be, but you're gonna get destroyed. All right. Now let's go into this real quick. This is from disabledworld.com. And as you can see, it says what happens when we starve. Phases of starvation. All right. It says the synopsis and key points, information regarding the stages of starvation and the effect malnutrition has on the human body. Okay. Now I'm just going to go straight to phase one. Okay. It says here, during the first stage of starvation, blood glucose levels are maintained through the production of glucose from proteins, glycogen, and fats. At first, glycogen is broken down into glucose. Only enough glycogen, however, is stored in a person's liver to last a few hours. After that period of time, blood glucose levels are maintained by the breakdown of fats and proteins. All right, so after you run out of that glycogen, now your fats that are stored in your body, all right, and your proteins in there starts to be broken down, all right, to be used for energy. All right, they taught you in high school, middle school, whatever, the ATP. All right, it says fats are decomposed into glycerol and fatty acids. Fatty acids can be used as a source of energy, particularly by skeletal muscle, thereby decreasing the use of glucose by tissue other than the brain. All right. So now, as we keep reading, it's just going to go into the different levels, all right, or channels that your body switches to in order to maintain that energy. And most of it goes straight to your brain. So it first runs out of your glycogen, then it goes after your fats, all right, and then your proteins. Okay. Now, it says here, I just skipped the last part, but it says here in the second phase, which may last for several weeks, fats are the main energy source. A person's liver metabolizes fatty acids into ketone bodies that can be used as a source of energy. So for you to be able to walk and talk and all of that, but notice that your energy is now limited. So your desire or your ability to perform these daily actions is now reduced. That means you don't have stamina, you're weaker, all right? You can barely stand up straight. On top of that, your body is shrinking. Okay, it's because the more of your body's made of fats, proteins, and all of that, and muscles, tissues. So as those fats, proteins, and muscles get depleted, your skin is gonna start to cleave to your bones more and more, because what's in between your skeleton, your skeletal structure, and your skin are those tissues and the muscles and so on and so forth, and the fats. So as they deplete, you're gonna start to look skinnier. That's where you get anorexia and all of that. All right. It says approximately after a week of fasting, a person's brain starts to use ketone bodies as well as glucose for sources of energy. Proteins are not essential for survival. Proteins not essential for survival are used first. Then you go into the third phase of starvation. It says the third phase of starvation starts when a person's fat reserves are depleted and there is a switch to proteins as the major source of the person's energy. Muscles, the largest source of protein in the body, are quickly depleted. At the end of this phase, proteins essential for cellular functions are broken down and cell function degenerates. All right, so some of your ability to perform certain things gone. All right. It says along with loss of weight, symptoms of starvation include apathy, which is basically the lack of desire to do anything. You're not enthusiastic about so on and so forth. You know, but on the spiritual side, all right, when you experience apathy through fasting, it's basically allows your spirit, all right, to be strengthened, because the things of like enthusiasm and happiness to do certain things of the flesh are what dies down. So your flesh is now super weak, that allows you to dwell more in the spirit. That's why some of the men of old would fast for such long periods of time. Okay, to kill the desire of the flesh and the distraction of the flesh, to hone in and focus and strengthen the spirit. All right, now I'm not telling you to go and do a 30-day fast and drop dead. Okay, it says withdrawal, listlessness, which is basically the same, or if not similar to apathy. And it says increased susceptibility to disease. All right, because now your immune system and all those things that defend you against the foreign, even the little bacteria, all right, can now be dangerous to you. Okay, it says few people die directly from starvation because they usually die of an infectious disease first. All right, think of it like your defense walls being broken down. Additional signs of starvation may include flaky skin, changes in hair color, and massive edema in the lower limbs and abdomen. And edema is like basically like the swelling, causing the person's abdomen to seem bloated. So sometimes when you see some of these pictures of like these, let me just see, starvation. Let's look it up on Google Images. Boom. So you'll see they look so skinny, all right, but their stomachs look huge, you know, like that. Everything else is skinny. You see how he got edema because his feet are all, swollen, and his stomach it looks bloated. All right, those are effects of famine. Because you say, why is his arms and everything so skinny, but his stomach looks big like he just ate. All right, it's a symptom of or a side effect of starvation. Okay, so now as this is happening to people, when you walk around in certain areas, you're gonna be able to tell who hasn't eaten in days, you know, and then you're gonna see the men of the Lord, and you're gonna be able to tell that they've been eating, they've been good. So even in that level, you're going to see a distinction of those who the Lord has chose against everybody else. All right. So it says during the process of starvation, the ability of the human body to consume volumes of food also decreases. And that's why, after a fast, you wonder why you get full quickly. If you try to eat, you get full quickly. You can't consume a large portion of food, like a big ass bowl. You'll get full because your stomach is shrinking as well. All right. It says foods low in protein yet high in bulk oftentimes cannot reverse the process of starvation because the nutrients you receive is not necessarily in how much you eat, but what you eat. Okay. It says intervention involves feeding the affected person low bulk food that provides lots of proteins and kilocalories and is fortified with minerals and vitamins. The process of starvation also results in dehydration, and dehydration is an important part of intervention. Even with intervention, a person might be so affected by weakness or disease they do not have the ability to make a recovery. And see, when all this is happening, when people are going through these phases, they're gonna be sober minded. All right, they're gonna be sorrowful. They're gonna be meditating on all the BS they did in their life, and they're gonna realize because when they hit that phase of apathy, they realize how pointless all the things that they used to do in the world, the stupid vain things, how it worked. You know, how they're about to just die right now because of lack of food. They're so weak they can barely move, and all they can do is just die painfully and slowly. And there's nothing else they can do, and they know that they brought it upon themselves. The Lord is going to validate it in your mind when you're going through your judgment. Why you getting your judgment? All right, He might give you flashbacks, whatever the case may be. So it says now the last phase, starvation and death. Starvation wreaks havoc on a person's immune system, largely on account of an extreme deficiency of minerals and vitamins. Some people will become weak and perish of immune related diseases during starvation. So starving to death, can come by many, ways. You can die by actual depletion, all right, of your proteins, your fats, and, all these different things. Or you could die by catching a disease, all right, or a sickness that's because of a weak immune system, all right. So it says some people will become weak and perish of immune related diseases during starvation. Eventually, the person's body will run out of options. Fats, glucose, muscle mass, and tissue are the finite resources that will eventually be spent and the person will die. The end stage of starvation usually brings with it one of two different diseases, kwashiorkor, if I'm pronouncing that right, and marasmus. Marasmus happens due to, and that's marasmus, I believe, is pretty much or like it's going to say it here, it says due to extreme energy deficiency, all right, often from inadequate amounts of calories and protein, all right, and that you get your calories and proteins from what? From eating, all right. So if you're not eating and you're not consuming food because of such a great scarcity, now mind you, while all this is happening, it doesn't just happen in one day, so it's stretched out over a period of time that makes it even more painful, It's a slow, painful death, you know? And that's what, as people are going through these processes and their body's breaking down, it's going to get so hard that they're going to give in. They're going to say, yo, how can I get something to eat? If I got to take the chip, F it, I'll take the chip. Because when you go through this experience, you're not thinking the same way you're thinking right now. All right, for the most people. Right now, you can say yes, no, you can say whatever you want. But when you're in an experience like this, near death, you start thinking different. Your brain starts to now try to validate any reason for you to get food into your body. That is your brain's number one go-to. So that's why some people resort to cannibalism, because their brain justifies that so long as it gets nutrients and food into the body, regardless of where it's coming from. It says the person's body weight reaches dangerously low levels and infections are common. Kwashiorkor is a related disease that affects children who are protein energy deficient and might result in edema and enlarged and fatty liver, resulting in a distending of the children's bellies, like I showed you in the picture before, providing the illusion that the children who are starving are well fed. When the person's death finally arrives, its most immediate cause is by cardiac arrhythmia or heart attack brought on by either extreme tissue dehydration brought about by autophagy, all right, um, or severe electrolyte imbalance, all right, imbalances. People can die of starvation in as little as 3 weeks or as long as 70 days, man. And here it is, the Lord could stretch it out for you to where you going through it, you wishing you were dead, but your body's just breaking down so slowly, but you still feeling the effects of it, man. This is the sentence the Lord has pronounced against people, man. When it says many that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, that's the process you're gonna go through, if not worse. Imagine feeling this weak and fatigued, and then on top of that, you got a disease. You know, this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 9 and 20, and this is why people are gonna resort to things like this. Um, it says, and I'll start at 19. Though it says, through the wrath of the Lord of hosts is the land darkened, and the people shall be as fuel of the fire. No man shall spare his brother, and he shall snatch on the right hand and be hungry, and he shall eat on the left hand, and they shall not be satisfied. They shall eat every man the flesh of his own arm. Okay, and going into famines, when you read in the scriptures, there's different accounts of how severe famines were and how people were resorting to eating their children and so on and so forth, eating belts and boots and trees and leaves and all of these things. All right, this is the book of Lamentation, chapter 4, verse 9. They that be slain with the sword are better than they that be slain with hunger. All right, so it's better to get shot or stabbed or some form of death like that than to just slowly starve to death. All right, if the Lord takes you out through famine, man, that's one of the most painful ways to go. All right, it says, for these pine away, stricken through for want of the fruits of the field. All right, you slowly die. You start getting anorexic. Your skin, your proteins and your fatty acids and all these start depleting, and you just lay there all fatigued, tired, weak, infected. All right, desiring food, man, to the point where you got flaky skin, crusty lips. You could barely even drink or eat, even if they gave you food. You know. But on the flip side, for the elect, we ain't gonna go through that. Lord willing, we have that number, and that's why it's so important to give it your all, man, and to keep pushing. A part of the reward is not to go through these kinds of things. All right, a part of the reward of salvation is you get delivered from things like this. Famine is a big deal, and it's coming. All right, yeah, you're gonna see them long lines in the pantries, but what happens when the pantries run out of food and the cities get emptied, and now people are fighting over a lunchbox, killing people? All right, because when you're in this condition, man, you people do not have rule over their spirit to where they can control themselves and discipline themselves. They're gonna go crazy, man. Now this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 65, verse 13. Therefore, thus saith the Lord power, behold, my servant shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. Behold, my servant shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Behold, my servant shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed. So while they're going through that starvation, the Lord said he's going to feed us. Why would the Lord put us through something like this, and we've been serving him? He said the judgment of this is coming for the wicked. So if we've been doing what the Lord asked us to do, why would he cause us to starve to death? And it's already been written that we're going to eat. All right, because what? We're serving the Lord. And they're going to be starving. So you're going to see a difference. All right? We're going to look like in the book of Daniel when they did the pulse fast. They ate lentils and pulse, and they came out looking fatter and stronger than the other the other people that were eating of the king's meats. All right. It says, "Behold, my servant shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty." We're not going to be dehydrated. All right. Behold, so the Lord is going to perform miracles on our behalf, to where even though there is a scarcity of food for us, there will be an abundance. Behold, my servant shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed. Behold, my servant shall sing for joy of heart, but ye shall cry for sorrow of heart, and shall howl for vexation of spirit. Because when you're going through something this painful, man, trust me, you're going to be humbled, all right? You're going to be humbled very, very quickly. And we do not want to go through that, all right? That's why it's always good to pray for forgiveness, pray for mercy, and pray that the Lord does have mercy on you and your loved ones, man, because the kind of judgments that the Lord has pronounced for this place is not a joke, all right? So for those of you playing around, you want to talk about the you think God cares if you have if you put a microchip in your body, man? Guess what? When the time comes, are you starving? You're gonna find out, man. When the different judgments come upon the face of the earth, you're gonna find out. It's not a joke. All right? And at that time, you can't say I take it back. You can't say I'm sorry. The judgment is already sent. So with that, I hope you were edified. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.